Welcome to Next Steps, a podcast from Blackhawk Church. We believe that following Jesus is a lifelong journey. So no matter where you're at, there's always a next step to take. Each week on this podcast, we'll create space for real conversations about the questions we wrestle with, the challenges we face, and the hope we find in Jesus. Our goal isn't to have it all perfectly figured out, but to walk faithfully towards Jesus together. We're so glad you're joining us. Let's dive in.
Well, hey, welcome to the Next Steps podcast. Hope you're having a great week. I'm one of your hosts, Chris, one of the pastors here at Blackhawk, and with me, not as always, but as often, is Pastor Tiffany Malloy. Tiffany, how's your week going so far?
Hey, good. We are here as a staff team. We are getting ready for our staff retreat, overnight retreat, which means everything that we do in a week is compressed to 3 days. And so, which we are excited for staff retreat, and also we are getting work done this week. So.
We're trying. Yeah, it's one of those weeks. Mm-hmm. And a man who needs no introduction, the doctor, Pastor Charles Yu is with us to answer some questions as well.
Hi, everybody.
So glad to have him in too. All right, so today, as promised, we are going to do a Q&A or Q&R, however you want to look at it, with the book of Exodus. We're about a month into it so far. We've had some, I've just gotten a lot out of the first handful of messages, and I've been excited to dig into Exodus every single week. And yet it can be a challenging book, and there's probably questions that have come to mind. So thanks to those that submitted some great questions. Yeah. Gosh, really thoughtful, really good questions. So we're going to try to get to some of those. Yeah. And if you have more, send them in to podcast@blackhawkchurch.org, and we will do another one of these at some point. So, all right, to get us started, question number one. Charles, you talked in your first message as you kicked things off about how tribalism is like our default mode as human beings. So the question is, how can we avoid being tribalistic as Christ followers, like toward other people, toward other denominations? I don't know. Do you have any kind of ways of thinking about that can help us avoid falling into that trap?
That's a great question. I thank you. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it. Man, that's such a great question, because going against your instinct is always hard.
Yeah,
that's just the reality. Like you're trying to fight gravity, right? I think people who study neurobiology, they talk about how our brains are wired, and they talk about how your brain is actually wired to generalize. It's wired to look for things that are similar and group them together, because it saves energy that way. And so grouping, looking for commonalities and grouping is inherent to how our brain works. And so we do grouping, and then we form groups of this group and that group, and then we're just automatically, because how we are wired, I would say part of our brokenness, I feel more accepted by people who are similar to me. I feel more comfortable with people who are similar to me. People who are different feels uncomfortable. And so I move into groups that are similar. And that's all normal.
Without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a problem just yet.
Yeah.
The problem is the next step, which is, hey, that group, the other group, they're not as good as us. They're not as good as us. Yeah. They're the Bear fans, they're the Viking fans. They're not good as us, and that's and it's just so basic how we work. I was having a conversation about this with somebody, and they're like, "But surely kids, this is taught. Kids don't do this." And I'm like, actually, sociological studies have shown otherwise. And there's this famous study, and I don't want to get into details wrong. You can look this up. You can find this quite easily. They were doing some kind of a summer retreat, summer camp. And they brought in kids, and they assigned them T-shirts randomly, blue T-shirts and red T-shirts. I think that's the right colors. I could be wrong. And without saying anything about them, at the end of the week, they do a kind of an evaluation, like, how do you feel about the people who's in the group? And I don't know how they did this, and you had to go find the study. People in the blue T-shirt group ranked their people wearing blue T-shirts to be smarter, more welcoming, nicer people, and people who are red, not as nice.
Wow.
It's like
these are so random kids.
Just random kids, random shirts. didn't do a thing about it.
Yeah.
And we just kind of, hey, my people, those people, we're better.
Yeah.
It's so instinctive to us. And so I would say step number one, if you want to avoid that, is to recognize that. You got to know that about yourself. And so whenever it happens, you got to be able to see it. And this is where catching yourself in the act is so crucial and such a difficult thing to do. Because when we're doing it, we don't know we're doing it, right? But you kind of go, wait a minute, I just did that. I just did something tribalistic,
Yeah.
which is the water I swim in.
Yes.
I mean, I'm swimming in. I just did that. Oh, maybe I should. Is there a different way to do this? So catching yourself in the act is important, and it takes practice. And the more you do it as a spiritual practice, I'm calling it a spiritual practice
truly.
because it is. Because I think I pointed out, this is sin with a capital S. This is systemic sin, but it's wired into every one of us. So catch yourself in the act. And number two, and this is something that, okay, what if I can't catch myself in the act? Exposure. Okay. And this is, you can start something easy. I know people hate movies that are like, subtitled. Watch a movie from a different culture. I know subtitles hard to pull off. Try it. Okay. Get comfortable with things that are different. Now, I'm talking about food. I'm talking about music. Instead of going, here's what I like, and I'm only going to do what I like. Have an attitude going, here's what I like. I'm going to try something that I'm not used to and see how I feel about that. And my feelings of dissonance, my feelings of alienation, my feelings of boredom, observe all this. You're conducting a sociological experiment on yourself.
It's so good, Charles. Yeah.
But you got to do it.
Yeah.
Because knowing about it isn't good enough. Catch yourself in the act and then exposing yourselves to different ways of living and thinking and being.
Yeah.
And it might anger you, it might frustrate you. Catalog all those feelings.
That's great.
Those are your tribalistic tendencies. Okay. I think the third step is actually then try to meet some people who are different.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about ethnic, I'm talking about politically. Right? And I don't know, maybe you want to start by watching something you don't normally watch and observe the feeling of alienation popping up in you and the resistance, the reluctance to engage. I don't want to watch that. It's making me so uncomfortable. Watch that. Because you're not watching to be angry at what's on the television or what you're listening to on your phone. You're watching to observe your internal feelings and go, okay, I see my problem. I have this. It's disagreeing with me and it's pissing me off.
Yeah.
That's me. Okay?
Yeah.
So I think there's
so
the kind of things. And then I think do that first and then you can start talking to people. Because the last thing you need is just go into a big fight. or going to people, going to get to know people and be totally repelled by them.
Yeah.
Here at Blackhawk, we have a Chinese ministry, we have Spanish language ministry, we have an Asian American ministry. We have different people from different ethnic backgrounds, different people from different political backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds. Be open to that conversation and the posture of openness. I want to listen to you. I want to hear from you. But that's, I think, toward the end of the processes.
That's fantastic. I think about one of my I guess all of our natural tendencies, but my extra natural tendency is to judge things, right? Like black and white, right and wrong. And I remember a season where I was challenged, I don't know, maybe it was college, of asking a question. Like before I make a judgment, ask a question, ask another question. And by asking a series of questions, I often could reroute my brain from judgment, if that makes sense. I just needed a little space to be able to open my mind to something different.
Right.
And that was a great challenge from a mentor of mine. To just make a new habit of asking a few questions before you make a judgment. And by the time you get to after 3 questions, you're oftentimes well, this is so interesting. Or, this is, wow, I'm learning, or I never thought about it that way, or that's really cool. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to eat that. But I that sounds great for you. And,
And I'm not, and you're not saying this, but we're not saying moral relativism. We're not saying everybody's right. There's no truth. There's no right or wrong. We're not saying that at all. What we're saying is, hey, the instinct to jump into that evaluative mode, put a pause on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And listen and understand, even if you end up going, yeah, I think they're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But now you understand why they're wrong
Yeah.
more clearly than before.
Yeah.
And because people who hold views different from you, you're like, you want to know why. That way you can communicate better.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't come out of this instinctive rejection, anger, judgment. It comes out of actually a place of love now.
And especially around ideas, sometimes people have reasons for believing and thinking what they do.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes there's a story that you can see in a person's life of why they've come to a conclusion about some idea. And you may very well disagree with the idea, but knowing the story, the why behind it really makes you more empathetic to them, to where they're at. And even to yourself, because there's stories that shape the way we have ideas about things. And all of us are wrong about a variety of things, right? Like at 42 years old, I don't know everything. I'm not right about everything in the world. And so if we can be open in that with other people, then I think we can be open with ourselves. Hey, there's something I believe that's wrong. What is it?
Jake is going to grab that quote right there and just play it back to you.
I love that idea of empathy, though, even as we're thinking about different people and the beliefs that they hold. I mean, that was a big realization for me maybe 6 years ago in the midst of all the things that were happening related to race and politics in our country, and some real frustration with disagreements that I had with some close friends that maybe lived back in Colorado at the time and whatnot. But coming to this realization of like myself included, we are all, at least to some extent, a product of like the culture and the place that we grew up in and our families and all these. So it was natural for them to believe these certain things that I disagree with. And it was natural for me to believe certain things that they vehemently disagreed with. And so how can we have a spirit of curiosity toward each other of like, where's that coming from and how do we move toward each other in those things? Even just to have that and be able to take that first step was huge. Sometimes I think the first step is the hardest of like just being able to like to move toward it in some way.
And I think this is, I haven't thought about this that long, so I just could be entirely wrong. Please tell me if I'm wrong. I think biblically, the people around us, they're not there for us to judge. That's not what they're there for in our lives. They're not there for us to evaluate. They're not there for us to disagree with them. They're not there for us to correct them. I'm sorry. Tiffany, you're making this horrifying.
It's painful. That's how I live my life.
That's not what they're there for.
Okay,
they are there for us to love them.
Yeah, that's right.
They are people for others to love. And that's biblically the principle. Yeah, and so if you love them, maybe correcting them is the right thing, but you have to know it's the right thing. Mm-hmm. And you have to have the relationship to pull that off.
Yeah. And the right timing.
Mm-hmm. But most of the time, no, that is not what they need from you. For you to love them, you need to know them and know their stories. And I think for people who are jumping into disagreements and evaluation and judgment, that's your instinctual instinct working. And I would say instinct at this point, your sin instinct working. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem.
It's good. Okay. Moving on to another question, also around Exodus 1. Most of the questions that we have today are going to be around that sermon. So one of the things we talked about was systemic oppression in Exodus 1. So the question is, what does it take for systemic oppression to become visible to those who are not directly impacted by it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. We don't, if it doesn't hit us, we don't see it.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely reality. I think there was a moment at the immigration faith crash course that was kind of the Q&A session where Matthew Stearns was talking about how the Supreme Court is now allowing certain kinds of situations to be considered reasonable suspicion that can allow you to be detained. For example, if you are a person who is of a particular ethnicity, you frequent a place where there's many people who are undocumented, and you speak the language, you could be detained. And so I just kind of apply that to myself. If I end up in a place where there's a lot of Chinese people, a lot of undocumented Chinese people there, and I'm speaking Chinese because I can, and I look Chinese, I can be detained. And that was a moment of going, okay, this issue of immigration and deportation was an issue outside.
Yes.
All of a sudden, it's now affecting me.
It's personal.
There's kind of a way of switching, and I know that's not going to happen for everybody. And I know that for most people, it doesn't affect you. It doesn't impact you. The way to do it, if you're stuck in your bubble of people who are not affected, you're just not going to be affected.
Yeah.
That's the reality, right?
Many of us can live a life
Yeah.
that is kind of insulated, maybe is a bad word, but insulated from some of
your
these
social
systems.
media algorithm, your phone algorithm,
Your
your YouTube
neighborhood.
algorithm, your neighborhood. You're not going to know a single person who's being affected by anything. And unless you go looking for it, you're not going to find it.
Yeah.
And so, if you spend your time, you work hard, spend time with your family, and everything your media is part of this insulated world, you're not going to see it. And so what we said earlier about how to avoid tribalism really is the solution here too, which is you need to then get to the point where you know people who are in different places. Yeah. There's a lot of things going, systemic problems in our country, around the world. Do you know people who are struggling? Let's say you're a person doing pretty well. Do you know people who are struggling economically? Mm-hmm. Do you know them?
And not just, I know them, I give them money, but no, have you sat at their table and do you know what they
struggle with?
What they struggle with, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you know issues of people who are dealing with in fear of being deported? Do you know people like that? Do you know refugees from Ukraine? Yeah. Have you talked to anybody about what's going on? Mm-hmm. It's a lot of it is opening your eyes to things. And in a world, it's weird because it used to be hard to get information, right? You have to get a newspaper. It comes once a day, and then you have to get for international news. You have to get really expensive newspaper like New York Times or Time Magazine. They're weeklies. These days, finding information on anything is so easy. Mm-hmm. But because there's so much information out there, you end up never looking for it. Yeah. And you just find the things you're interested in. Yeah. And that's actually the problem now. The information is too easy to come by, and there's too much of it. We're inundated. We're awash in information. And if you want to know about what's happening and recognize things that are happening to people that doesn't affect, but who are other from you, you have to be proactive now. Yeah. It's hard.
Mm-hmm. Go to places that maybe you don't normally shop. Places you don't normally shop, neighborhoods you don't normally go to, or doing cultural activities that you don't normally do. Or, and this is easy, but I think it is effective, at least to get people started, is reading fiction. I think fiction gets a bad rap for some people, right? It just is a story, but I think if you can read some fiction that helps you to experience a different life, to have a window into the heart and the mind of a character who is experiencing something that's really different from you. Yeah. You're not just observing it. You're not just reading information about it, but you're letting yourself, you kind of enter into somebody else's shoes and to live. I talk about reading fiction as I only get to live one life. So by reading fiction, I get to live 1,000 lives. Mm-hmm. And so I think that is one of the ways, at least, to begin to develop empathy and curiosity is by reading some fiction. So that could be a great start too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love all those answers. I wonder, I'm not saying that the person that asked this question, it feels this way, but sometimes I wonder if some of us feel like this pressure to know all of the things and to do something about all of the things. And so feel free to push back, you guys, but I also want to take the pressure off a little bit of if you're even asking this question of how can I become more aware, that's a pretty good place to start, right? Trying to have an awareness for these different things and have open eyes. Did you guys ever watch The Good Place back in the day?
Yes.
It's old at this point, so I'm not going to ruin it for anyone, hopefully, but basically it's this movie about people who are trying to get into heaven, but the good place, by doing all the right things. But it turns out for millions of years, no one has made it in because it's just impossible to do all of the right things, always buy organic apples and always fair trade things. And I think sometimes we feel that pressure of to address all of the things and to do all of the things and care about all of the things. And it's good. God has given us this heart to want to care about issues of justice and oppression, and yet take some of the pressure off of yourself to like notice what you can notice, care for those that you can care for. You can't do everything. You're only one person, but the fact that you care about this at all, or care for people that that God has put in your line of sight or in your life, that's huge. So don't minimize that either.
That's good.
That's great.
I think there's terms empathy fatigue. Is that?
Oh.
Yeah, or compassion fatigue.
Compassion fatigue.
Yeah,
Compassion
for
fatigue,
sure.
yeah.
And that's a real thing with
It's a
like
real thing.
all the things that are going on in our
Yep.
world. So do what you can and trust God with the rest of it, maybe.
Yeah.
But, all right, we good with that one? Should we go on to another
that's
one?
great.
All right. This is kind of a big question. We'll see if we can summarize this a little bit. You talked about mishpat justice. Is there a right way to seek justice in the face of systemic oppression, or are there wrong ways? One of their examples was Shifra and Pua. What was it? Sparkle and
Beauty and Sparkle.
Beauty and
Beauty and
Sparkle.
Sparkle,
I
yeah.
love that. That was so great.
Yep.
And amazing story, and yet part of it involved them being dishonest to some extent, right? So, like, was that okay? Or this person asking the question brought up other examples of like giving to Caesar what is Caesar's, and Romans 13, which talks about obeying the government and these kinds of things. So, how do we go about seeking this kind of justice? Is there a right way to do it, a wrong way? Is it okay to be dishonest sometimes? Is it not okay? Like, what should be our guiding principle as exiles in a foreign land as we're trying to figure all of that out? So I don't know. That's a huge question.
Yeah.
Good.
I
It's
don't
kind
know
of
where
like
you start.
what is in our toolbox, right, of seeking justice. What are the tools that we have at our disposal? Which ones
Yeah.
should we
Just kind
get
of
rid of?
there are books and books written about this.
Yeah.
And this is a conversation that just has been going on since Jesus left. Seriously, this is like
So you're saying you don't have the answer.
I'm not I'll barely able to ask the questions. But this is a precisely the challenge facing the church.
Yeah.
Because, Jesus left and he says, you don't rebuild Israel. We're not going to create a kingdom of God here on earth right now. We're going to send you out as witnesses into the world. So we are a kingdom of God in intentional exile. And for us here, we're intentional exile in the United States of America. We're foreigners and exiles here. We have a citizenship. Many of us have citizenship. Now, the thing about America is that it turns out to be a democratic republic, which means we have a say.
Yeah.
We can vote. We can post things online. We can do things. The system allows a lot of power and influence for a group of people, like the church. And so that becomes a topic of huge controversy.
How do we use that power?
How do we use that power? How do we engage? How do we create mishpat in this country as exiles? And what ways are illegitimate? What ways are legitimate from a biblical perspective? And that's and people are arguing about this endlessly. This is like now more than ever, but it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
So maybe some basic framework. From what are we trying to do in terms of actually affecting our society? Obviously, hey, we're called to love people individually and treat people well, and within our sphere of influence, do mishpat, right? If you're a company owner, run your company with mishpat.
Yeah.
Treat your workers, your employees well, right? As a church community, mishpat in our community. That just seems that's like, of course, that's not even a question. The real question is, okay, now what about in Madison? What about in Wisconsin? What about in the United States? To the extent that we have influence, what are we trying to accomplish? Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is good laws is good for people. If we want to love our neighbors, love our communities, good laws that are just, that are fair, those are good things. And so finding ways to support those laws for good governance. And then question is, what is good governance, good laws? And I'm going to put that up later, right? The second thing that's, I think, critical is understanding that we're not just here to make a good America.
Tell us more about that. Yeah.
Right? We're here to reveal the kingdom of God. We're here to be witnesses. That's the goal.
And sometimes I wonder if those two
get confused.
Things can get confused or can be at odds with one another.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it absolutely can be. And so here's the question, right? If we're here to also bear witness to this, then the way we engage politically, not just with the content, not just with the positions we take, but how we engage, should reveal God's values, should reveal God's love, and should reveal God's mishpat. And now having those two goals in mind, right? Having good laws and good governance in our country and doing that in a way that really help reveal God. So people go, oh, that's really nice. I like what they do there. I'm drawn to it. Those two things are in tension sometimes, and people argue endlessly over those two things.
Yeah.
So, okay, so maybe we can dive a little further into this.
That's great, yes.
Dive a little further into this. So what are good laws? What are good laws? So from a biblical perspective, humans created in the image of God. So laws that help humans flourishing, good laws. Governance that help human flourishing. Laws that oppress, the laws that limit, that restrict, those are not good laws. And so now, even in that, people are going to go, well, wait a minute, what about this? What about that? And
What does flourishing
what does
mean?
flourishing
And
mean?
what is, sometimes limits are good.
Sometimes limits are good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm thinking of really broad principles.
But those are great principles to begin with.
Right. So there's questions we can talk about that and pursuing the common good, and then we talking about, for example, it's an easy example. Like, okay, here in America, is it good to have freedom of religion?
I mean, many of us would say yes.
Many of us would say yes.
Yeah.
Some people say no. I think we should make everybody worship Jesus.
Right.
I'm not okay.
That's definitely an ongoing kind of dialogue,
Yeah.
right?
right?
Some
Yeah.
people would say 10 Commandments is our base of our country. I'm like, yeah, the first command is you shall know God before me, right? Worship Yahweh only. Okay, so there's questions about that we don't dive into in detail, except to say, what is human flourishing in this kind of a situation? I, for one, we've lived through periods of church history where the government has enforced, hey, you only worship the Christian God. And I think today, many of us are like, that wasn't great for us. That wasn't great for the church.
Yeah. Historically, it hasn't worked out how people thought it would. Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't worked out well. It hasn't been great for the church. We learned something from that. And we're like, I don't think we're pushing for that anymore.
Yeah.
There's nothing absolute about that. It's just like we learned it. It didn't go well.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of people became Christians because we're supposed to, and they don't know God at all, and they diluted the whole church and caused a whole bunch of problems.
Exactly.
And people pursued Christian faith because it steps to power, to influence, which is the antithesis what Jesus is talking about.
Yeah.
So you're like, that's a bad idea. Okay, and some people can disagree, and we can have that conversation, but we learn some things, and we go, okay, that's not a good idea. So we don't want that. I think we actually want freedom of religion in our country. So that would be good laws. There's other things like that we can talk about almost endlessly. Okay, good principles.
Yeah.
But what I want to get to is this. Do it in a way that reveals Jesus.
Yeah.
And I know right now there's a lot of people talking about, man, you got to stand up for Jesus. Stand up what's right. And I'm just like, okay, listen up. Jesus died for us. Jesus sacrificed his life for us. Communicate your passion for justice. Communicate your perspective in a way that is self-sacrificial for the benefit of others.
Yeah.
That's the underlying principle, that you're revealing Jesus in the process. Rather than power or fame or influence, go the other way. Reveal the character of Jesus.
Yeah.
That sounds really different from the world, which it's supposed to. When we live Jesus out, it looks different.
Yeah.
It looks different. And people may not appreciate it.
And it doesn't always do what we want it to do right away. It doesn't, I think about if we respond with compassion and grace and, being slow to anger, all these things, sometimes it's not going to change the other person's mind and I think that's often what we're wanting to do. We're wanting to make somebody agree with us but that's just not how, that's just not how it works. It's not how our hearts work. It's not how the Spirit works.
And this, look, I mean, what I just said here, this is so hard. I mean, because And Christians disagree on this topic, right? If you're looking at a situation of serious injustice, there's an urgency there.
Yeah.
Do something.
Yeah.
Don't just pray. Don't just listen and be loving. You need to do something.
You have power. You can stop this.
power.
Do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Should you take up arms? I mean, should you go protest, do something.
Yeah.
So we have people who disagree on this. And there are, I mean, the example people always point to is what happened in Germany during the Nazi, not the rise of Nazis, because the German Lutheran Church did decide to support Nazism because they're submitting to the government.
Yeah.
And then today, that move has been rejected. Today, we all look at Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was executed because he was a German pastor who actually, this is kind of crazy, he was part of a plot to assassinate Hitler.
Yeah.
And today we're like, that's the guy. What happened to submitting to the government?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
So
yes.
how do you balance those things, right? He was actually going to go after the elected government of Germany
Yeah.
and to take out the leader. It's like, whoa, what in the world?
Yes.
And today we're like, okay, give grace to each other because this is hard.
Yeah.
The Bible is not really clear on this. It's just not.
Yeah.
What would you say to the person, I want to lean into that just for a second, beyond politics and laws, who's like, I just see so many things going on and I want to do something, but I'm not sure where to start. What do you think it looks like even on an individual level to try to figure out how we can be a part of God's mishpat justice in different kinds of ways? Any suggestions that you'd have with where to start?
That's a good question.
With that.
Okay, first of all, I've been talking about church. I haven't been talking about individual Christians because I think the church as a whole must see itself as being nonpartisan because we're ultimately not we're foreigners and exiles. But individual Christians, okay, you're like, hey, I'm really interested in getting involved in public policy. I'm involved in politics. By all means, I would encourage individual Christians. You have a passion for this, go into it. Now I know that there are dangers you're going to be treading dangerous waters. There's no getting around that because these days you have to belong to a party to get anywhere, almost, and and the party's going to force you and mold you into certain positions that you're going to go, that's actually antithetical to my biblical view. And I'm saying that for both parties, or all the parties. Both parties has views that are antithetical to the Bible, and it's almost like which one can you stomach, which one you can live with. And so, but then and this is why the church steps away, but we're saying individual Christians go for it, is that you, in some ways, are making compromises for the sake of, producing results, hopefully for mishpat, for flourishing, for people flourishing. I encourage Christ followers to get involved in politics, to vote. And I don't say which party you should align with because they're both in certain areas. They're closer to the kingdom of God, and they're farther away in other areas. There's no party has somehow some kind of a we got God on our side. That's simply not happening. So get involved, but recognize that you're paying a price. And it's not easy.
I hear you saying like it's messy. It's not going to be clean and easy.
It's messy. And being able to stand and figure out how to be influential without losing your integrity is the great challenge of the political world.
And I think ultimately also resisting the challenge of believing that political power is the one and only way of change. I think that oftentimes it's easy for us, especially here in America, to put our hope in that.
Yeah.
But I think when we do, it can really mess with our hearts and our minds that our hope is in Jesus and he supersedes all of this. But it can be, when you're entrenched in it, it can be easy to believe that this is the only way that something is going to change. And
sometimes, right, exactly. I agree, exactly. And our ultimate call is to witness, not to be effective.
Yeah, truly.
I mean, if you look at the first, second centuries of a church, there's no talk about changing the Roman Empire.
No, they knew they didn't have the power to do that.
No, their job is to witness.
Yeah.
They had a very clear understanding that the church was to be an alternative to the Roman Empire.
And that was transformative.
It was transformative. Everything changed once it became possible to influence a secular society. for the church. The church got big enough.
Yeah.
I think Ronnie started talking about within 300 years, the church went from 500 people to 60% of the Roman Empire.
Wow.
And Constantine basically
Wild.
Constantine basically read the tea leaves and says, I'm going to be a Christian now. I'm going to be a Christian
And
emperor.
that's where it all.
And that's when things got
started going
interesting.
downhill.
Things got interesting. But once you have that power, then you're doing that trade-off. The early church didn't have power at all.
Yeah.
And their critique of people, they were critiquing religious leaders. They never went after the Roman emperor because it was kind of pointless.
Yeah.
Today, it's a different story. And how do you figure it out?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
It's good.
Well, just to bring it full circle, I love what you were talking about before of like our posture matters just as much, if not more, than the actual like results that are produced sometimes. Otherwise, we're going to lose our witness for the sake of driving something forward or that kind of thing. And we don't want to do that. We want to represent Christ well and not lose the forest for the trees. But
that's a very good point. Because if you, hey, we got this done, but and everybody's like, we hate the church.
Yeah, that's
how did that accomplish anything?
Yeah. All right. I think we have time for one more. Do you have one?
Let's do one more.
Do you have one queued up that you want to do? Otherwise, I can
go for
throw
I love it.
a
Do
crazy
it.
one. Well, it's not crazy, but I think it's a little lighter, maybe. Anyway, one that I've heard over the last couple of weeks is I'm exaggerating a little bit, but essentially, like God seems to have like a thing for murderers, like for using people. Like Moses and David, the Apostle Paul was essentially so. Like, what do we do with that? What's going on there? I know Matt said like God doesn't condone these things, and yet there's like this interesting track record of using people like that that have a complicated past.
Yes.
So what are we supposed to get from that?
I'm not going to answer that question specifically. I need to go back and look. Like, okay, that's the new thought. That's a new question for me. Like, does God have a thing for murderers? God definitely uses some murderers. When he called David wasn't yet a murderer.
Not yet.
So that's just I want to make that clear. Called Abraham, I don't think. I'm just trying to thinking through that a little bit. But here's what I do want to point out, which I think is it's a great question because it challenges our understanding of who God is and what He's looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. This is one of the big ideas I'm always trying to get across at Blackhawk. If you're not hearing this, please hear it. And I'm not communicating as well as I should. The world sees God as a judge. The world sees God as a judge and sees what the judge wants is for everybody to follow the rules. Sin less. Okay? Don't break the rules. That's the world's understanding of God. Okay. And so, in other words, then, the leaders, the people that God's calling to do things, must be then people who sin a lot less than me. Right? If the standard valuation is how often you sin and how big the sins you are, like let's just do some kind of a numerical calculation. Here's a number below which God will not use you.
Yeah.
And above that, holy people, God's going to use you. And then we're like, oh, Moses, he killed somebody. Gee, that's rather surprising, right? The question is expressing surprise at this.
Because if it was up to us, maybe we wouldn't have chosen him.
We wouldn't have chosen him.
Because he was a murderer.
He was a murderer.
Well, what you just said, like, I know you think you talk about that all the time, which I think you do. And yet, like, it's like, wait, like, that's not how things work. Like, I think for most of us, that's what we have in the back of our minds.
It's embedded, imprinted in the popular imagination of the West. That is the underlying view of God. And it's actually impossible to knock it off. I've tried. It's just like you can pound it repeatedly, and then you stop talking, and people forget. They lapse right back into their conversation. It's one of the foundational views of God that we have. And I'm trying to say that is not the biblical God. I've been trying for a while now.
What is it then?
Okay.
Give us.
So the biblical view of God, two things. He is a father and he is a king. He's a king. He's your dad who's a king. And those two understanding of God changes how you see things and how he selects. If you understand, okay, forget the father part because that's not the question. The question is why he uses people like Moses. Answer, God is trying to reclaim his world. right? The earth was he created the earth. Humans rebelled. It's messed up, controlled by evil forces and sin and death. And God says, I'm trying to get it back. I need partners. What kind of people are good partners for this? Holy people? No. Passionate people. Passionate people are people that God's looking for. Okay? This is one of those things like, okay, wait, really? Yeah. If you understand God is a king who's in a state of warfare and trying to reclaim his land and reclaim his people, he's looking for passionate people. And I can show you, we can talk about examples like from the story of the Bible. For example, Esau and Jacob, the two brothers, both sons of Isaac, right? This is back in Genesis. And people are always like, Esau and Jacob. Why did God choose Jacob? Jacob's a complete jerk.
I know.
He is a complete jerk.
Truly.
He is a complete jerk.
Tiff's like, that's not right.
He is a cheater. He is a liar. Esau's just like a nice guy.
Yeah.
He really is. So why did God choose Jacob? What is up with that? Now, I know Romans says God just chose him, but the story in Genesis is a different interpretation. God was mad at Esau for not wanting the birthright. Jacob stole it from him. But Esau's like, he didn't value it. Now remember, being the birthright, meaning being the leader of the family of God, the covenant family of God. And Esau didn't care because he didn't get the covenant. Esau wanted it, and Jacob wanted it. And he was unwilling to steal it and trick to get it. And God's like, I don't like the tricking part, but the fact he wants it, I'm down with it. I am down with that. I want somebody who wants this. God's looking for partners who care about the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
Right? Are they willing to kill for it? Moses was. Right? Moses cared enough to kill for it. And God's like, that's not good, but I can work with that.
Yeah.
Right? Versus people who are like, they're doing everything right. They're so nice people. And God's like, I can't get you to do anything. I need partners who's going to do stuff. I give you another example. Saul and David, the King Saul and King David. This is in 1 Samuel. Saul's like this great guy. People like him. He's a nice guy. But God rejected him, and he took on David. Why do you want David? Because David cared about God. There's that moment in which David says, I live in a temple. I live in a palace. I want to build out a temple. And God's like, I never asked for a temple. Have I ever asked for a temple? No, I never asked for a temple. And you're going to build me one? Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to make you into a dynasty. You will reign forever. And then we have Jesus as the son of David reigning forever, right? From the dynasty of David. Now, David was a rapist, a mass murderer. And God's like, yeah, he's a king after my own heart.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that. When we think about that he was a king, this is a man after God's own heart. I think sometimes we think about, he really didn't want to sin. Or he really wanted to be good. I mean, right? As you think about I'm just
it feels a
evaluating
little
my
icky.
own.
It's like, what do we do with that?
Yeah. That's exactly it. It's not about
about behavior.
God's evaluation of leadership is not behavioral.
Yeah.
It's not like, you're trying to be good. God's like, okay, this is where imaging God is important.
Right.
Because imaging God isn't only about ethics. Because we think imaging God is about become a better person.
Yeah.
All right. No. Imaging God also includes a passion and desire, a zeal for the kingdom of God. That's part of imaging. And the Holy Spirit puts that in us. And there's people like Moses, people like David, people like Peter, who's going to grab a knife and chop off somebody's ear because, I'm defending Jesus.
Defending Jesus,
we're fighting the
and
kingdom
Jesus
right
is
now.
like, no, but
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Right, and so I think we just need to shift our understanding who God is.
And I think about, when we think about the Pharisees, we think about they were zealous, but they were zealous for this right and wrongness.
They were zealous
following the
things.
rules.
They're zealous for the wrong things.
Yeah.
They're zealous they were still zealous for the kingdom, but they're zealous for if we just follow the rules properly, God will come back.
Yeah.
And Jesus is like, no. It's not about that. It's about me.
Yeah.
Do you love me? That's the question that Jesus
Doing a partner
poses.
with what I'm doing,
It's not, hey, Peter, this is in end of the Gospel of John, right? It's not, Peter, Are you going to do the right things?
Are you going to do better next time?
Right. Will you stop sinning?
Yeah.
No. Do you love me?
Yeah.
Do you love me?
Yeah.
Do you care about what I care about? Do you see the world through my eyes? Do you yearn for the coming of the kingdom of God? Seek ye first the kingdom of God. And if you do those things, God's like, I'll help you move. I'll help you grow. I'll help you sin less. But that isn't the point.
Yeah.
Creating a bunch of people who sin less is not the goal of the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something we might have to sit with and wrestle with a little bit, right?
I went to church today.
Yeah. Like, I think, we can, even I'm sitting here, I'm like, I agree with those. Yeah. And, I mean, holiness sounds good too, right? Like that sounds important. And yet you can be holy for the wrong reasons, as we just pointed out.
Okay, so this is where I'm pushing back on the definition of holiness people use. Yeah. Because when people use holiness, they're talking about purity of some sort. They're talking about sinlessness.
Sin management.
Versus like set apartness.
Set apartness.
Yeah.
To be set apart is I belong to the people of God. Well, what does that mean? Oh, I'm a witness to this world. I'm God's partner. And once again, we're getting back to that. I would say holiness it's the more you self-consciously see yourself as being apart from this world, the more holy you are. Because that's literally what the word holy means, is to be different and to be distinct.
Yeah.
Now, are you then marked by love, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, goodness? Oh, absolutely. Right. That's supposed to happen.
Yeah. The fruit of the Spirit, should be more and more evident in your life.
Which means you will sin less.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. But it's not like I'm running after sinning less. Right. I'm running after Jesus, and the Spirit transforms me as I'm pursuing God.
I'm trying to sin less so I can go to heaven.
Make God happy.
Make God happy because he's the judge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is where just the misunderstanding of God is endemic in our culture.
That's a good clarification, because I feel like some of us could be listening to that and are like, I don't know, get the wrong impression. We're not saying that those things aren't important. And obviously we've all seen examples of how someone's life or ministry can blow up if they don't have those things in place, if they have passion, but
can
there
turn
isn't
people away from
formation.
Jesus because
exactly.
of it.
Just like the conversation we were having before. So they both matter, but what are you going after? Like what's most important? And that's kind of reorients.
Maybe like what's your why? Or,
And the biblical example of that goes back to David, because when he did what he did, there were consequences.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that went on to the next generation and caused massive problem in his country. So there absolutely are consequences for sins.
Yeah.
We're not saying sin's not important.
Yep.
Right.
But when you ask the question, why does God seem to be drawn toward murderers?
Yeah, right.
I think God's drawn to people who are passionate. People who care.
There's a passion that he knows he can reorient and use if turned to the right purposes. Right. So these are challenging passages and things like that. So thanks for leaning into that.
Charles, last time you were on the podcast, I think I complained about why are we doing Exodus for so many weeks, but now I have changed my mind, and this is an excellent series. And I'm learning a lot. There's lots to learn. Thanks for creating this for us.
I'm just glad nobody's asking about Zipporah, but since nobody has it, let's not go there.
Well, we still have another Q&R, so maybe in a few weeks. So again, so
we can get to those. Yep.
All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up there. Again, continue to submit questions, even if we can't always respond to them here or on the next one. If we can, we'll follow up with you too and be able to have a conversation. So thanks for leaning in. We've heard so many great stories of just how God is using this Exodus series already. I'm learning a lot. We're all learning a lot. And just really grateful to be digging into it as a church together. So I believe next episode on the Next Steps podcast, we're going to start to talk about some things related to Holy Week and why we do some of the liturgy around Maundy, Thursday, and Good Friday, and of course heading into Easter. So that'll be great to be able to press into that as we near that season coming up on Easter. So join us for that. And again, submit your questions, and we'll see you on Sunday. Have a great week.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Next Steps. Don't forget to check out the show notes for a list of resources if you'd like to keep the conversation going. If you want to learn more about how to get connected at Blackhawk or simply find tools to help you grow, check out blackhawk.church/hub. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. Until next time, let's keep following Jesus. together.